Welcome everyone to episode 229 of Just Joshing. I am your host Joshua Pantalaresco. I write stuff and podcast too. Today, my guest happens to be photographer extraordinaire Victoria Braun. Now, I met Victoria at my sister's photography show. They're really good friends. They went to the same photo schools together. Victoria has a really cool gift. She likes capturing personal moments with people, or her friends especially. We talked about a little bit about that in the podcast, but what's really amazing about her work is she'll experiment with it a little bit with different like just like how she manipulates light, or like the number of lenses she uses sometimes, and just a few other things. She's an experimenter with her photography. So her final result is actually incredibly creative to watch. She takes these really personal moments and kind of just gives a different look and perspective that you don't normally see in a lot of photography. She's a gifted storyteller in her work. So Victoria, yeah, you're awesome. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Beyond all that, deadlines, and deadlines. I've been bombarded by just things that I have to do and I have to take care of. And I've been doing that just as much as I can. Today I just uploaded a couple more videos to my YouTube channel. An oldie, J.A. McLaughlin's, finally back up, and I just translated Lazy Bears over to the archives. But yeah, it's just been busy. I'm actually taking a day off the day job to get caught up. But anyway, I'm digressing enough. Let's just get to that conversation, shall we? So let's see. I have returned the recorder on. So Miss Victoria, if that is your real name. Great. Yes, it is. Okay. If you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good. Now, I know you've been thinking about this.
I have been thinking about it, but I decided not on a first date.
No, okay. No. You leave the incriminating stuff for late? Okay, gotcha. So if I ever have you back on again, though, it better be really good. I mean, really good. Okay.
Yeah, deal.
Done. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
It's been good. It's been good. I still I get to talk to, from what I have seen, a very good photographer. So yeah. Who's just like literally about to get her started. So that's always cool to actually meet someone that's trying to get herself established and planning on taking over the world. I'm assuming that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. So are you Pinky or the Brain? Brain. So, I saw a theory about Pinky and the Brain the other day that actually the theory is that Pinky is actually the genius and the Brain is the insane one. And the argument goes like this: because the brain, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If you sit there and think about it, the Brain's trying to take over the world every night and never succeeds. Right. Right. So that's the case for him being the insane one.
What kind of like artists?
What?
You're just doing the same thing over and over again, trying to find a different solution.
Are you? I mean,
I feel like you're just searching. You have a question and you're just trying to solve that question over and over again.
So what's your question?
Until you find it.
So what's the question you're asking yourself?
Well, with my photography. See, that's the thing is, I'm a overthinker. I overthink things to the point where they're not interesting, and then I don't want to do them anymore. So photography is still interesting because I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm chasing. So therefore, I want to keep doing it.
So I see. So you it's fun, it's creative, and you don't know what your final end result is.
Yeah, I haven't gotten bored of it because I haven't figured it all out yet. Like what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. Of course I have concepts, but I don't have all of the answers.
It's okay, and the more you do it, the less answers you're gonna have.
There you go. And then the more interesting it becomes again and again.
Well, hopefully. So my theory kind of goes like, so I write stuff because I do believe all art is the same thing in this one sense. We are all trying to tell our story. Mm-hmm. And as we get older and hopefully wiser, so some people I wonder, but that's okay, right? As we get older and wiser, the question becomes, what are we saying that's different than what we said
X amount of years ago. Like,
Yeah, totally.
like The Watcher was 5 years ago. So what I was saying then is I was sick of my day job, right? And that reflects in the first book especially. And I talk about family and God in the second, in books 2 and 3. The Cloud Diver, which is forthcoming, talks about life not quite going the way you should be.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland, the Greek Alice story, is literally about my interpretation of what is real and slash overcome just the fact that I see a lot of people overcoming all kinds of different afflictions, whether they're mental illness, diseases, and being heroic in the face of inevitability, fate. So I mean that says an awful lot about a person. So each story I tell says a different thing, and I think as long as I can do that, I'll be good and relevant. And the moment I stop, I'm done. I need to go fishing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Does that make sense? Does everything I said there actually apply?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. You're just trying to tell a story, but you're also trying to figure it out for yourself.
Oh yeah.
And that's why you're telling it to share it, but also to understand it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah. So I feel like that's exactly what I'm doing with my photos.
Yes. I would love to look at your photos. So, what do you like to take pictures of?
People. Like just exclusively people.
Exclusively people?
Yeah. So you can flip through these. These are the hand-printed ones in the dark room.
Oh.
And then these are just some ones that you can.
All right. So I get to look at pretty pictures. I'm probably gonna take a picture of one of them. That's a neat one in terms of effect. This is a party, I take it.
Yeah, so I started taking photos of my friends in my last year of art school.
Okay.
And so that context would have been a lot of like house parties.
Oh yeah.
And
I see someone's about to have a moment with the porcelain god in the morning there. But anyways.
And the reason I would take the photos at house parties is because everyone was just completely raw and comfortable and just self-expression. Just
Yes.
everywhere.
Very cool. So and that's actually a really interesting shot of her.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly fragile.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I took that with the flash, and so that high contrast.
So I'm looking at black and white. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at her black and white photos. I should ask this because my sister is an avid darkroom black and white person.
Yeah.
Like that's her jam. Is that your jam too, or are you more like? Are you more about taking the pictures and developing?
It's all the same process for me.
Yeah.
So I work with a film camera. For all of these, I worked with a very, very low 5 analog, a Diana, which is like a toy. The reason being is that it's extremely unintrusive. Like you don't even know it's there because you don't have to fiddle with any dials. You just point and shoot pretty much. And then the process of using that lo-fi camera and then taking it into the dark room is sort of like you have this intimate process of developing yourself. So if you have an intimate subject matter, then you have the intimate process of you're doing all of the development by hand, and then you can sort of play with filters and you can change things up in the darkroom to make it more experimental.
Yeah.
So it's all one process.
Okay.
The shooting to the printing.
So it's not. So the whole thing is worthwhile to you. You don't have a favorite. You don't have a favorite thing where you. So why people? Like you're talking about like the party was about a particular company, but why people? What's the fascination?
So I actually discovered a photographer in my last year of art school, Nan Golden.
Okay.
She's a photographer working primarily in 70s and 80s, though she still works now, but her 70s and 80s work is what draws me.
Okay.
And she was working with themes that I had been chasing for the last 4 years, and all the themes I was interested in, I saw in her work, and I went out the next day and bought a camera.
Nice.
It was just like simple like that. And so she was taking photos of her community, and she's a documentary style photographer, so she takes photos of her life, her friends, her community, and it was so inspiring. And I thought, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. Instead of trying to make visual art with different mediums, everything I want to accomplish can be done by just photographing people close to me. So I started photographing my friends because I feel that they're just interesting to me. They're very sensitive and full of expression and vulnerable and creative, and I just find them all fascinating.
So, you read people well? I'm going to ask that question now.
I don't know. I mean,
No, because okay, so this what I mean by that is okay. I interview people
yeah.
all the time, and I there's a lot I see. Sometimes I bring it up in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot I don't necessarily bring up either, but it gives me an idea of where to go in the interview. Because as you saw, I came into this so prepared with a bazillion questions to ask you.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea is, I want to do a casual conversation.
Yeah.
So for me, I get to look at a person, I get to see kind of how they're reacting. Like for you, like I've already learned without really talking, is you're a dabbler. You like dabble. You've tried dabbling in different things, and you've had a lot of interest, but nothing's really grabbed you until now.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you have come to the point in your life where you have found your passion, right? So, and based on what we've talked about here, if you have any fears about it, it's one thing is that you figure out all your answers, because then at that point you will like, well, this sucks. I have to find something else to do with my life, right? But that might be a tiny phobia. But you're also just literally getting into the process, which is like, so this is what I've picked up in like the 10 minutes we've talked, right? That's what I picked up. So I can imagine. So for you, because although you are a lot more of a visual expression of people, there's stuff you see and there's stuff that you want to try to bring out of people.
Totally. What I actually always say is, I want to sort of capture a moment, and hopefully in that photograph I can then show it to the person photographed, and maybe they'll see something in themselves that they didn't realize was there.
Okay.
Yeah, like specifically with this first photograph.
Yes.
I feel like this is such a powerful image to me, because I feel like her facial expression is just so intense and so full of energy, and I feel like I could show this to her and she can be like, oh wow, like, you know, she'll sort of see something about herself that she maybe wasn't aware.
It's an oddly vulnerable one, because there's two parts to the equation here. I think with her it's I don't know, almost like it's like a self-realization kind of moment right there, or a very self-conscious moment right there.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas her two friends beside her, well, she's very happy.
Well, it's the same person. It's
really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, like, why the contrast to that? Same person? Or friend? Or... Because they don't have to say...
So, well, with the double exposures, I never actually planned them, so it wasn't intentional to have these sort of three figures. I don't plan. I just sort of intuitively snap and then see what comes out. But it turned out to be this really interesting dynamic with the three faces, and then this transformation between her two faces.
Yes. To happy to really happy. I'll say that. Happy to chill, and obviously a self-conscious middle, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a self and a shadow.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go into a random spot here.
Okay.
Like stories? Did you like stories a lot when you were a kid?
Yes, I was an avid reader.
What'd you read?
Pretty much anything. A lot of princess books. Actually.
So the Princess Bride, William Goldman kind of thing, or like Snow White. Like what do you mean by princess books?
Well, I would go to as a kid, I would just go to the library and ask the librarian for every princess book she had, and I would check out 20 books at a time, read them all, return them.
So you secretly want to be a princess in her castle. Gotcha.
But that was when I was very little.
Yeah.
I really liked any kind of book. I really like period dramas, anything just about people again. just interesting stories. Yeah. Yeah, I'll read anything.
You read anything?
Yeah.
Still now?
Yeah. Yeah, still now. I do really like nonfiction now, like personal essays,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I should send you one of my early ones. I did one literally of all my embarrassing moments. It starts with me trying to kill my go-kart operator, and it goes from there.
That would be interesting.
Well, I'll tell you that story. So I learned how to drive a go-kart the first time. I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And so the first time you learn to do a go-kart, you suck. Like I literally crashed into the thing a bunch of times, and I'm sure the go-kart was like, again, so towards the end, I start getting it. I started to figure it out. I got to figure out, slow down at the turns. Don't go 3,000 miles an hour. This is not Super Mario Kart, no matter how it looks. Right? And so it's going great until it was time for me to get out of the go-kart. So I don't know why I had this thought in my head, but I just assumed that getting out of the go-kart, I get out of my go-kart like I could get off riding my bike. So I used to not hit the brakes on my bike. I would literally jump off, grab it, and go.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. So I get out of the go-kart and it keeps going.
Yeah.
The operator sees it. I've never seen anyone dive out of the way. Like, literally, it was an epic movie dive. I still remember this to this day. So it crashes into, like, this big giant thing. I wasn't allowed to go go-karting again.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, not at that park. And not now. I learned a very valuable lesson. Hit the brakes and then get out. And that's how the essay starts. And it just starts with like all these incidences like that. There's like a weed whacker story. There's all kinds of like these kind of like moments in my life where I don't quite get it the first time. And I thought, a lot of us go through that. Like the first time we try something, it's like, we really screw up, and sometimes it's hilarious.
Yep, it is. Sometimes it's not so funny, but
most of mine have tended to be like have bordered on like the humor side of things.
Yeah.
I was working for this author, and his brother would always get a hoot at me because I would do something for the first time. He'd just go to the other one, just get this grin on his face, like, "But what's he doing now?" Right? So what did he do now? and like this entertaining, like, oh my god, I don't even want to know, but I do want to know at the same time. It's excellent developmental stuff though, because I think one of the big things a lot of people forget taking away when we try new stuff, we have to look silly and foolish sometimes.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a good thing to look silly and foolish. It's because if you can get through that, I guess what's the term? The awkward phase of learning something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can actually really start by figuring out what you can do. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was my personal essay. That was my personal.
And those are nice to share because you're just being vulnerable and opening up, and it's nice. People have to read other accounts.
Yes.
You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, and we all relate on some level. Like the thing about. So, I love Will Wheaton as a writer because one of the things he talks about all the time is like living with his family. Now, he lives in some ways a very blessed life because in terms of income, he never has to worry about it because all his work on Star Trek and Big Bang Theory, apparently he was himself. I hate that show, so I don't watch it. So, but he's got enough stuff going on that he will always have revenue coming in.
Yeah.
But inside of that, he's able to write about one of the hardest things to write about. And I think actually one of the hardest things to express in any art is joy. Tragedy, vulnerability is easy. We all know what that feels like. Humor is subjective, but it's hard. It's harder. But again, we all can take a joke.
Yeah.
Right? But joy, like true joy, the joy of a moment, a triumph, or that moment you realize you love someone, the moment, I mean, those moments are so precious and rare, and I think they're the hardest things to do in art well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, everyone is always like, oh, no one wants to listen to a happy song. You know, like.
Actually, that's not true. It's just hard to be. It's really hard to make. The challenge is, it's hard to make that genuine.
Totally. Yeah, it's a lot easier to listen to a really sad song and connect with it on a really deep level than it is to listen to someone talk about how happy they are in a song. It's hard to translate it to a way that someone else can really connect.
Yeah, because again,
Yeah.
those are rare moments.
Yeah.
So they're truly rare. It's like I did it. Like I did it. I did this thing, and it's so cool. And wow,
Yeah.
that is so hard not to sound corny.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's something. So if I can write joy or I can express joy in my art in a way that better not do that. I don't want to knock your pictures over. I mean, you look strong. You might beat me. I don't think it'd be fun. So, but there is a legitimate. I think that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
So where are you most like you find vulnerable moments definitely, or interesting moments. But
Yeah, these I feel like in her face, there's like that's a sincere
yeah, that's really cool.
contentment. Yeah,
I think that's actually really cool. Like the second one where it almost looks like a giant group hug.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels incredibly sincere.
Yeah. I like this one because there's that giant cuddle, but then there's this person really removed.
Yeah. Well, like you said, that person's going to have a date with a porcelain god because that looks like tequila. But anyways, right?
It's rosé, but
Yeah. You would know better than I would. I'm just looking at this, right?
That's pretty cool.
It's like. But yeah, it's one of those situations where you kind of look at it and go, yeah, it's like detachment, but also like a closeness there. I mean, it's cool. This one I think is pure, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This one's like, okay, this is the rest of the world. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually interesting too because it's also like our world can be very small.
Yeah, and that's another reason I'm so fascinated with photographing this my community of people because we have our own little worlds when we're all together, and like this photo especially, just that, it sounds kind of corny, but like just that closeness. And when I can focus in on the camera, I can focus just on that moment, and that's all I can see for the viewfinder.
Yeah.
And it just makes things, just collapses things a little bit, and I can just focus on the moment at hand.
All right.
It's really nice.
So we talked about you making photos. How about you in front of the camera? Are you as comfortable or uncomfortable?
I think I would be comfortable. I don't really know anyone who likes photographing people, so I'm never really in front of the lens. The thing with my photography practice is I don't feel that I'm separated from any of these photos. Not in a voyeuristic way. Like I feel that I'm actually part of the photograph. For example, this one, like she's looking at me, not the camera. So we're having a complete exchange, and in that way, I'm also part of the subject matter of this photo because this is us having a moment together. The camera just happened to sort of be there.
Yeah, it was the medium that translated that.
Yeah. So I feel that I kind of am in all of the photos as well.
Absolutely.
Which is an interesting. You can't physically see me, but the presence is there.
I don't know if you've heard it in the podcast. I mentioned the stick figure reference. So here's the thing. Okay, me it is kind of a bad example because my stick figures revolt, but the idea is okay. I cannot duplicate the process of say a younger person drawing a stick figure. There's something I cannot translate, even though technically this is the part that's kind of 50-50 with me.
Yeah.
All right, technically I'm better technically.
Yeah.
But it's not about technique. There's something about putting yourself out there that you cannot simply translate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And someone that goes all in on a stick figure is a better stick figure than me. Only because it has an emotional resonance and impact. Whereas me it'll be like, it's a stick figure. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I named him Joey. Right?
Yeah.
Right? There might be a moment of like you have like a chuckle, but I mean it won't have the same. Whereas someone that's like that's really getting started drawing, or someone that's really putting everything they have in that moment, that can't be duplicated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that's whereas there, I mean, substitute CI. So she's a good friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she cares about you. Just the way the eyes are. She just cares about you a lot, actually. So.
Yeah, and that's just the magic of, I just happened to press the shutter at that exact moment, 1 second earlier or later, and it wouldn't have been a photograph.
Well, it would have been a photograph, not necessarily.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
So how many shots do you shoot per, like, whenever you do something like this?
If I go to an event or a house party or get together or whatever, I try to shoot at least one roll. I don't try to overshoot. If I feel that it's more about quality over quantity. If I feel that I've got a couple shots that are really quite something, then I won't worry about shooting a whole roll. But I try to shoot at least a roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Which would be 36.
Okay. My sister's like photo blitzes. Like yeah, she just like goes. It's like a machine gun, right?
Yeah.
But I guess with your camera, you wouldn't be able to machine gun them anyway, because just the way it's very point and click. It's more.
Yeah, with the one I use for these kind of shots, yes. Yeah, it's a very simple process.
Yeah.
Which is why it doesn't interfere. Like, people just expect me to have little Diana with me. They don't see it. It doesn't, make people self-conscious or anything. Which is something that I've worked on. It's interesting because I feel like my little Diana, I call her that.
Yes.
I feel like she's my sidekick, and she kind of forces me to foster relationships with my friends, because I have to have a trust and a rapport before I can just start snapping photos.
Yeah, okay, so wait, Diana. So does Bullets and Bracelets Diana, like Wonder Woman kind of Diana? Is that?
Well, no, the model of the camera is called Diana,
Yeah.
so I just call her Diana.
Okay.
But yeah, she's like a.
So I was gonna call your camera WW there for a second there. It's really, really cool. But no, it sounds like so your ideal. I mean, you like events like this, obviously, but like bigger stage, like magazine shoots, model shoots, weddings are kind of a photographer's worst nightmare slash bread and butter.
Yeah, they get a bad rep because a lot of people complain, but
well, it's part of the.
It's a way to pay the bills.
Yeah. Like I said, so maybe the wedding thing, I'd be like, okay, there.
I don't know. I actually wouldn't mind shooting a wedding. I don't think, because it's kind of the similar vein. You can focus on it as like a job, or you can focus on like, oh, I get this awesome opportunity to capture these really intimate moments that are so special to someone.
Absolutely.
And I haven't done much like commercial photography or photography for like, for pay.
Yeah.
This is my practice for my own art.
Yes.
But I am not opposed to doing that.
So the dream then would be a photo studio art show featuring Victoria Braun and her trusty sidekick Diana as they explore the world.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, just me, my Diana, and my cat.
Yeah.
Just adventuring around.
Your cat. What's your cat? My sister tells me your cat has an interesting name.
Pasta.
Yes. Why Pasta?
When I adopted him 4 years ago, my partner really wanted to name him Pasta, and I was like, that's a stupid name. But it really sunk in, and I really was like, oh, you know what? That's actually adorable. Once I met him, I was like, it's perfect.
Yes.
Pasta, it's perfect.
It's like, oh, yeah. So you, Pasta, Diana, and your partner in crime, and you're going to like take a zillion different photographs, and then you're gonna put them on art shows, and people are gonna be like, "You're amazing. How did you come up with this?" And you hear all the pretentious, wonderful stuff. It's like I just pointed and clicked, but that's my secret.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. It's kind of weird to exhibit photos that have such a intimate atmosphere and that are so special to me and the people in it, but I actually do have a feature coming up in Sadie's magazine.
Okay.
That features 13 images, some of them these ones, and I'm actually really excited. I think as long as I have the permission of the subjects,
Absolutely.
then I think why not let other people look. Like, why not? It's like an emotional sharing. Why not?
Yes. No, and well, that's what art's about. Ultimately,
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
day, it's that human connection.
Yeah. Exactly.
So 13. So some from this, some of the black and white ones I saw earlier too, or
Yeah, so they're all black and white.
Okay.
Some of them I don't have here, but the feature photograph is this one.
Ah,
Yeah, so she'll be on the back cover, and then there'll be 14 inside.
that's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Good luck. I
I'm
hope.
quite excited.
Well, it's. I mean, people are. I mean, we live in this world together, and the cool thing about art ultimately is an expression of empathy. That's what it is.
Totally.
Right.
And I really like that because I always tell my friends, I'm like, my camera, it's just a lens of affection. That's how I kind of think of it, because when I look through that lens, I'm so focused on that person, and it is like a total lens of empathy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And at first I was thinking, oh, who wants to see photographs of, these really intimate moments of people? But then I thought, that's the whole point of art.
Yeah.
Why would I show something unless it has some emotional connection that someone else can sort of feel?
Well, that's totally it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I learned a long time ago, like, intellectually speaking, like, I can break down a story in my head.
Yeah.
Intellectually, I can figure out, okay, this is point A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No one cares unless there's a reason to connect.
Totally.
And you have to be open, and the thing is, the hardest thing about art is you yourself have to be open and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to criticize you. People are going to tell you it's not for them. And I mean, there's going to be moments where you listen to them and you're going like, I wanna.
It's like
Like, I don't know. Yeah. And then there's going to be those moments. Then there's going to be those moments where you're like, I totally get what you're going for. I really appreciate this. This meant an awful lot to me. And you're going to have that moment where it's like, I have nothing to say. I'm supposed to say something smart here. Mm-hmm. Nothing's coming to me, and why am I turning this really big and changing red? Right?
That's the best. Like,
absolutely.
When you don't need to say anything at all.
Yeah.
You just have this understanding. And I believe, like, really very firmly that the personal is still political. And
ultimately, no, totally.
Yeah. So if the personal is political, but then the personal is also universal. If you're brave enough to share personal stories, that becomes universal, and people can connect with it in ways you would never imagine, and that's the whole point.
Yes. No, that's absolutely it.
Yeah.
All right. That's the whole of the secret. I think in terms of what you try to do. Well, good luck on the mission of joy. That one's the hardest one. But if you get one of those 2 moments, one of those 2 or 3 moments in your career, you'll be like, I've done it. This is so hard, but I've done it, right?
Yeah, that'll be a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah, but to the rest of your journey, like you started Sounds Like Magazine, do you have like a website where you do like practice, like where you're opening for photo jobs at this point? Are you still like how do you see where you're gonna go from the magazine? Like, what do you want to do next?
With film, I just want to keep shooting and learning, and I'm trying a bunch of experimental techniques in the darkroom, which I'm really excited about. And with film, I think I'm mostly interested in just publications. But I think I will start exploring a bit more work with my digital camera, because that's a great way to have a career and an income. But film will always be my passion. And I don't necessarily need to make tons of money from it. I just want to keep exploring what else I can do, and of course it's awesome to get published.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, more publishings down the road would be
Yeah,
very...
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met like a really awesome community of film photographers in Calgary, your sister included, and then there's lots of awesome ones on Instagram, like lots of awesome...
Absolutely.
Especially female film photographers around my age that I've met on Instagram who are also super inspiring. So, that's the nice thing with social media.
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, it's how I find most of my guests is social media because it's like, you're awesome. Would you like to come on my podcast? It's like, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. Or who are you? And why do you want to talk to me? I am boring. And I'm like, lies. All lies.
Yeah, it's funny how much creative people can tend to sort of devalue what they do. You're like, why would you want to talk to me? Well, you're really interesting. Yeah.
It's funny because, okay, so creative pursuits are by and large intellectual. But it's not that different from an athlete in the sense that, okay, so an athlete can do things, like incredible things. You like someone like, you can see some athletes that can run, jump, do incredible feats of strength that you're like, holy crap, like not many people can do what you do. And you're like, that's incredible. But the basic principles of how a lot of them, like learning technique, repetition, right? Showing up and doing a grind day in and discipline's huge. Yeah. Like discipline's incredibly huge. Yeah. And art especially, it might even be bigger in art because, I mean, yes, the elite of the elite, right, have this down in space. You get to the really elite levels in sports, you have to do it in space. But a lot of if you're an athlete, but there's a lot more platforms for athletes. I think a lot more today than there are for artists, which is interesting, right? Nothing again, and no disrespect to any athlete, because it takes an awful lot of work to get to that point in your life where you can do all these incredible things. But on the flip side, right? Artists do a lot of the exact same things, but literally in a lot of cases have to create their own opportunities.
Yes. Yeah, that's another full-time job, is creating your own opportunities, publicizing, putting yourself out there, doing stuff for free. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Victoria Braun. I'm awesome. I don't believe. No, I have to be sincere about this too, because if I'm not sincere about this, you're not going to believe me, and you shouldn't believe me, because I don't believe me. And I hate this. I don't want to talk about anything but myself. Right? Yeah. But it's how sales work, right? I kind of equate sales as an artist, kind of like a professional wrestler. Because if you look, okay, so the most absurd thing about professional wrestling is you see this guy in this elaborate costume, over the top, or woman too, guy or gal. Yeah. This over the top persona.
Right.
Right. It's like, and their whole point for 30 seconds or a minute is to convince you, make you want to see them get their butts kicked or kick somebody's butt in this arena at this time at this place. It's absurd, right?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
No,
but they do have to do those pitches.
No, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like literally, and here's the thing, right? No matter what they're, and thing is, some of this most, especially like look at the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Macho Man and a Savage fan. Oh yeah, right, that guy, right? It was you listen to him, and literally if you listen to how he speaks, right, you actually listen to what he exactly says. I'm too hot to handle, I'm too cold to hold, brother. You're like you listen to that, right? It's like, what the hell is this? But there's a very important lesson, though. Because that guy made millions of dollars doing this, right? Think about that. There's a very important lesson they teach, and this every artist I think needs to actually have this nailed down. You have to believe in yourself and what you're doing. If you don't have that, no one's going to give you an opportunity to do anything. And a lot of artists shoot themselves in the foot because like, I'm nobody's. No. Lies. Not everybody does what you do. Not everybody puts themselves out there like you do. It takes a lot of courage to do what you do. Right?
Yeah, and if you don't believe in it, how's anyone else supposed to?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So, I'm not saying you should wear elaborate costumes. I mean, if it works for you.
You can.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I might be doing a poetry reading on the 15th. I'm actually might be dressing up as my own version of the Mad Hatter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because, well, in my owl story, the Mad Hatter's Kronos, the god of time. The reason why is because the Mad Hatter does one thing very, very, very well, and that's kill time. So I'm like, the connection just made a lot of sense to me. So I'm like, so I'll be this guy in this elaborately stupid hat.
Yeah.
And I'll have like, I'm trying to find like an hourglass that's big enough that people can get when it goes off. I'll create like this little toy blade up there, and occasionally I'll be stabbing time.
Well, I want to come to that. For sure.
Yeah. But that's again, it's what the Mad Hatter does, right?
Yeah,
So it'll work because since I'm quote unquote performing a poem.
Yeah.
It will work in that environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would not, if I ever did a book signing, I wouldn't wear it.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Are you always like this? Well, no. What do you like? I'm usually this quiet guy that interviews people and makes an ass of himself doing it. That's who I am when I'm not here, right? So, but yeah, I think where I'm just gonna tell you, like, whatever you want to do with your art, believe in it. Like, really own it, believe in it, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And like, because you never know what opportunities exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
Yeah. So whether you do magazine shoots or profiling people, because I could actually see you doing that. Like for you, like I think Rolling Stone would be a dream.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be a dream because if you said like Rolling Stone's kind of like my model for the podcast in the sense that I love those in-depth, casual. They don't do a lot of question and answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's nice to have a more freestyle exchange.
You're right, but also I just love the presentation of the interviews, the magazines. Although the only thing I kind of don't like, although I understand why, when they do musician interviews, they always have these elaborately stupid sets.
Oh.
I get it because again you're dealing with a rock persona. Also, it's kind of hard to go like some of these guys, especially like U2. They don't want you to come to their house, and I understand that, right?
But how cool would it be if you were allowed to, and you could have that sort of like raw?
Because that would be that would be the best thing. I get it. You don't want to have anything that indicates your address because you don't mind performing in front of a lot of fans, but you want the fans to perform, to see them when you're performing. You don't want them to be like literally outside your window going, "Oh my God!" You don't want that. So you don't want to go to the police officers. How much would it cost to just have you here full time? Yes, you're giving me away, but I have no choice now. So, but that's the only thing I don't like about it. But I love everything else, like the settings. I love the they tell stories even in just their photography of like where the band is at. There's a lot of little subtle politics sometimes when you're looking at a picture and what's featured and what's not. And so it's always interesting to me like when I see something like that. So I figure for you, like that would be like the dream. Pretentious sets aside.
Yeah. No, I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome. Yeah, I'm just really interested in sort of photographing people as raw as possible. You know, you don't need to have a lot of information to show a lot of information.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so happy with all of these. I've collected all these photos over the past 4 years because I've been photographing a community in Calgary. A lot of my friends are in the queer community, so it's a community that is a little bit more underground. And
it is becoming more out in the open than
but a lot of the events that we used to have, 4 years ago, it was a lot more underground. It would be, house parties because everyone's very comfortable, or it would be like small events that weren't super publicized, and just getting the exposure and just being invited into a space where everyone is so open and vulnerable and raw, and allowing me to photograph them in that space is just such an honor.
Yeah.
And that would that would translate into anything, anywhere where I would be invited into someone's space.
Yeah, for me,
It's so awesome.
it was definitely like in my case because it was about 3 years ago. This podcast and this just meeting certain people afforded me some opportunities to get a little bit more in those communities. And like I said, at first, like it was just such a step outside my comfort zone. And then, but on the other hand, it's also an honor too because it was like I'm trusted enough to be here.
Yeah, totally.
And that's a big, especially with well, actually, this is what we both had this in common because, well, I mean, yes, we know my sister. Yeah. But that's all we really have in common.
Yeah.
So you took a big chance to trust me to come here, and I took a big chance to trust you because, for all I know, you might have been crazy and you know, right? You never know. Oh, yeah, exactly. You never know what to expect.
Right.
But everything I do is based on trust, and I have to be who I say I am, or I have no credibility.
Yeah.
And a photographer, it's the same thing, actually. Especially if you're doing like this particular kind of subject matter, right? You have to be trusted.
Totally. Yeah, you have to be accountable.
Yes.
And it's kind of cool that a camera is this little inanimate object, but it forces me to be accountable and compassionate and open.
And professional.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what being honest, being put in a situation where you have to be as honest and raw as possible, what it does for your integrity over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the biggest lesson I've learned doing this is throwing judgment completely out the window.
Right.
That's the biggest lesson. It's like that doesn't mean I agree with everything I see sometimes, and there's definitely a window in here now of things I can't unsee.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I saw that. I don't know what to do with it, but I saw it, and now it lives with me forever. But at the same token, right? At the same token, right? It's just like it's amazing to me how universal, no matter who you are, what you believe in, who you sleep with, right? We all have so many things in common. I think a lot of people just forget, like, our differences are not that big, right? And I think everybody wants essentially the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly who you are.
Yeah.
If you can look at someone through a little focusing lens of a camera, and none of that matters. It just goes back to the same thing. You're just having like trust, exchange, emotion. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be evil here.
Okay.
If you could narrow it down to just one photograph that tells your story, do you have one of those yet? If you don't, that's fine.
I mean, I have two that I always refer back to, and if someone's like, "Oh, what do you do?" These are the first two I show.
Okay, so yeah.
And that would definitely be this one.
Yes.
Because there's just that facial expression, I just can't. Every time I look at it, it's like arresting.
Yes.
And it would also be this one. For the same reason.
Love and vulnerability.
Yeah, there you go, actually.
Yeah. She's vulnerable. Like, you can just tell in that particular moment, for whatever reason, she's vulnerable. Right? Now, her two partners are that vulnerability is a question mark there.
Yeah.
But not here.
Yes.
Here she's in she's a little bit in her own world. You can just tell she's thinking about something else or imagining something else.
Yeah.
But there's something really happy, really, like, she's not self-conscious at all.
Yeah, very, very open.
Very open, right?
Yeah.
Here, maybe a little too open to the ways of the universe at this point. But whereas her in front, right? Super vulnerable, super self-conscious, almost a dare. It's like, right? That's kind of what the feeling was with that one. But this one, also vulnerable, but not in the same way, in a very strong way.
Yeah.
Right? like whoever this person is cares about you an awful lot. You can see it in just like not quite a full smile, but it's the eyes. There's a joy there.
Yeah, see, and that's like the highest compliment. It's just amazing that it actually translates. Like amount of story can translate from a photograph of someone you didn't even know. If you can get all of that from the photo, like that's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. So love and vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing to be as a photographer.
Yeah, I mean, that never gets boring. You can never.
I hope not.
Quickly figure that out.
No.
So that would be keep chasing. Like what a cool thing to keep chasing and trying to capture. And it doesn't matter. Like the context can change, the people can change, as we get older, the events will change. But
even the story changes a little bit.
Yeah, but if you can still sort of try and capture those in a photograph, that's super interesting.
Yeah. I think we have an interview, Miss Victoria. Do you think we have an interview?
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay, so why don't you talk about the magazine again in detail, where you're being featured at, and how can people find you?
Sure. So there's a local magazine called Seides, and it's managed by a really, really lovely person named Sonia. She is a film photographer in Calgary, and they publish strictly analog photography. It's international, so anyone can submit, but it is based out of Calgary. So in their issue that's coming out it'll be January or February, I believe, I was honored to be chosen for a feature. So I'll have an interview and my 15 photographs. So there will be a launch at Shelf Life. And again, that'll be January or February, I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
But all that information will be on Sadie's website, Instagram, Facebook. I'll be posting it on my social media. So right now I have a website, but I don't have any film photography on it. I'm in the midst of updating it from old work.
This will be January, so will there actually be stuff in January?
On my website?
Yes.
I'm just debating if I do want to make it a website for film or not.
Okay.
Right now it has other work. It has some experimental poetry and some visual art. But I am on Instagram.
Sure.
So it's Victoria EV.
Victoria.
And I do post some film photography on there.
All right.
Yes.
And that was my conversation with Victoria Braun. Her photos will next be on display February 17th at Shelf Life Books. It's C's Magazine is doing their 10th anniversary launch. You should come check out. Her and a bunch of other photographers will be there showing their photos. You'll have a good time, I promise. Like I said, Victoria is an amazing photographer. I can imagine that everyone else that's going to be there will be there too. It's amazing stuff. So congrats, Victoria, and good luck and continued success. I got a lot of deadlines, so I like I said, I keep trying to get to this point, but there's just, again, right at this minute, it just feels like everything's just a dog pile right now, and I'm just trying to catch up with everything and everybody. So I thought I'd close the podcast this week with mental health awareness. It was Mental Health Awareness Day yesterday, and I thought, well, what I'd do is I would talk about, the 5 things I know for sure how to exercise mental health. I don't have depression. I don't have any of the mental hang-ups. I mean, I have my own occasional bout with imposter syndrome, but that's because I'm like, how the hell did my life getting to this point? That's an ego thing, and that's something I'm working through. But in all seriousness, like there are 5 things I've learned in life, and I thought that I would mention them here as kind of my contribution to mental health awareness. So this is what I know. I'm not going to promise it's all going to work for you like it's worked for me, but I found these things are the best things to remember. The first way to build self-esteem, number 1, is to accomplish things. Now, the accomplishments don't have to be big, but yet the bigger the accomplishment, the bigger the esteem boost. It's just the way it is. But that all said, you can do a whole bunch of little things and still build your confidence. You need to accomplish things. It allows you to build your esteem and confidence so you can tackle other things. You know you can do it. You believe you can do it because of the things you've conquered prior to this. That's 1. Speaking of that, though, your esteem. Your dignity and your integrity are the only 2 things you truly own in this life. They're the only 2 things that you bring to the table. Never, ever compromise either of them. That's where a lot of damage will get done. This is very important. Number 3. There are going to be times in your life you're going to feel alone. This is a normal feeling. We all go through this because life's a slog. And sometimes we feel like we're the only ones in this space. The big thing we got to remember, though, is that sometimes, actually every time, it's a lie. There are people that love you. There are people that believe in you. And if you do really need to hear a word, reach out. Honestly, it's the best thing. Number 4. A lot of times we worry about trying to fit in. The truth of the matter is we're not. We are all built to be different and stand out. And anyone listening to this podcast, I feel, instead, look in the mirror and find a way to like what you see. This is probably the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do. But if you can do that, I promise you, like all these other things I'm talking about, integrity, self-respect, that will come. And this is how you exercise that more than anything else. Number 5. This is important too. The company you keep. No one really wants to be alone. But people that are horrible influences on you are just as bad, or if not worse, than being alone. If you have to if there's a choice, being alone is the way to go. Also, being alone does not necessarily mean you're unhappy. Sometimes it's good to be alone. And this is what I know about exercising mental health. If you're going through something, like I said, do not be afraid to reach out to people who love you, a priest, psychiatrist, whoever you feel comfortable talking to. Your mental health is important. So, from me to you, I hope your mental health awareness day went well. So, whatever you struggle with, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. And that'll do it for another episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of ways. I am currently on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes for as long as iTunes is still around, so definitely take a look at that. And you can subscribe, leave comments, spread the word. That's the important thing, spread the word. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, are available through mirrorworldpublishing.com. Check them out. Or Amazon, Kobo, wherever books are sold electronically, book and mortar, you can get my books. Do so. Leave a review if you like it. Even if you don't like it, leave a review. It's all about getting better. Number 2. Number 3, my YouTube channel, Joshua Pentalaresco, now has hit 110 episodes that have been archived in the podcast. So, you should definitely take a look and listen if you want to listen to more conversations. But beyond all that, stay inspired, do your thing, embrace your inner crazy, dance madly to whatever finish line you set yourself for, because you can do it. I believe you. All right, guys. See you next time.
Josh.